Today, we're going to put a name to a feeling that I guarantee you've had. It's called cognitive friction. We're going to explore what the source material calls the burden of efficiency, and you know what? It might just reveal a whole lot about the way your brain is wired.
You know that feeling, right? When you're watching a coworker click through like 20 menus to do something you know is a simple keyboard shortcut. Or maybe you're in line at the store and the person in front of you just cannot figure out the chip reader. It's that little spike of impatience, that feeling deep inside that just screams, "Oh my God, just let me do it."
Well, if any of that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. And it's more than just being impatient. It turns out that feeling is a real cognitive phenomenon, and it actually has a name.
So let's start right there. Let's really dig into that frustrating feeling and figure out where it comes from.
I mean, we've all been there. The painfully slow checkout line, a website that feels impossible to navigate, or watching your colleague use some clunky, bizarre workaround for a simple task. Here's the thing. The frustration isn't really about the waiting. It comes from the gap between the inefficient mess you're watching and the super simple, elegant solution that's playing out perfectly in your head. It's been described as a mental itch, and that's just perfect, isn't it? You see the problem and you see the solution at the exact same time, but you can't scratch it because you're not in control. You're just stuck there, watching the inefficiency, and that's what feels so uncomfortable.
Okay, so let's give this mental itch its proper name. What exactly is cognitive friction? This is it, right here. Cognitive friction. It's basically the amount of mental effort you have to put in to get something done. So when a process is smooth and makes sense, the friction is low. But when it's clunky, confusing, or just makes absolutely no sense, the friction is super high. And that's what causes that feeling of discomfort.
A really easy way to think about it is low friction versus high friction. Low friction stuff, that's the good stuff. It's designed to be effortless. Think one-click checkout on Amazon or clear, simple signs at an airport. High friction experiences, though, they're the absolute worst. We're talking about filling out the same information on 5 different paper forms or trying to decipher those terrible furniture assembly instructions. They're jarring and they're mentally draining.
So this brings up a good question. Why does this stuff drive some of us absolutely bonkers while other people don't seem to notice at all?
Well, the source material we're drawing from for this explainer actually links a high sensitivity to cognitive friction with something it calls the high IQ sensitivity. The idea here is that brains that are really good at processing information and spotting patterns are, by their very nature, the same brains that spot inefficiencies almost instantly.
And the source puts it in a way that just perfectly captures this. It says, the same mind that sees the solution is burdened by having to witness the problem. In other words, it's a package deal. The gift of seeing a better way is tied directly to the curse of noticing every single worse way things are being done.
And that's the thing, this sensitivity isn't always a gift. In fact, it can become a real psychological weight. The source calls this the burden of efficiency.
Seriously, think about it. If you're constantly seeing flawed systems, broken processes, and inefficient workflows everywhere, at the post office, at your job, on every website you visit, the world can start to feel like one giant, unending source of frustration. You're basically living in a world that isn't optimized, and you just can't turn that awareness off. And this all happens in like a split second. It's a quick cycle. First, you see the inefficient process. Second, almost at the same time, you instantly see how to fix it, the perfect solution. But step 3 is the key. You feel the friction, that gap between what's happening and what could be happening. And that feeling is what leads directly to step 4, frustration and agitation. Living in that cycle, well, it takes a real psychological toll. It creates this constant, low-level agitation just simmering under the surface. It can make you feel misunderstood, like you're the only one who sees what's so glaringly obvious. And honestly, it's exhausting to constantly be mentally re-engineering everything around you. It can make you really impatient with people or systems that just follow the rules, even when the rules are just plain bad.
All right, let's bring this all together. What does this all mean for you? So, we started with that nagging, frustrating feeling, we gave it a name, cognitive friction, and we've even explored the heavy burden that can sometimes come along with it.
But let me leave you with a different way to look at all this. What if that mental itch isn't actually a curse? What if all that frustration is more like a compass, pointing you directly toward the problems you are uniquely built to solve? So the real question is it a burden you have to carry, or is it a signpost showing you what you're meant to fix?